Commander Taiwan Park adjusted his formal uniform as he entered the grand reception hall on Unity Station. The massive space station served as humanity's primary diplomatic outpost, hosting representatives from 17 alien civilizations. Tonight marked the first official reception for the Viridian delegation, one of the newest species to join the Galactic Coalition. Remember, tonight is about building bridges, Admiral Kim reminded him, straightening Taiwan's insignia. The Viridians are extremely private. This is the first time they sent a diplomatic mission beyond their own star system. Taiwan nodded. I've studied their customs extensively. Good. Don't mess this up. The reception hall buzzed with conversation. Humans mingled with various alien species, the tall, four-armed Kalari, the reptilian Drex, and several others Taiwan recognized from his diplomatic briefings. The Viridians stood apart, their iridescent skin reflecting the soft lighting. Unlike most species present, they appeared almost human in their basic shape, though their skin tones ranged from pale blue to deep violet, and delicate antennae curved from their foreheads. Taiwan approached slowly, carrying a small box. Inside was a rare crystal from Earth's deepest mines, a traditional gift meant to honor new diplomatic relations. The Viridian representative turned as he approached. She was striking, with silver eyes that seemed to capture light and amplify it. Her skin shimmered with subtle patterns as she moved. Greetings, Taiwan said with a formal bow. I am Commander Park, Earth's liaison to new coalition members. I am Mara, she replied, her voice melodic, first emissary of the Viridian Collective. Taiwan opened the small box, revealing the crystal inside. On behalf of Earth and humanity, I offer this token of friendship and future cooperation. He maintained eye contact as protocol dictated, showing respect and sincerity. He noticed an immediate change in Nera's demeanor. Her antennae stiffened, and her skin flushed a deep violet color. The other Viridians nearby grew still, their attention locked on the interaction. You? Nera began, then stopped. She composed herself quickly, taking the box with trembling hands. Thank you, Commander. Your gesture is acknowledged. The exchange felt off, but Taiwan couldn't pinpoint what had gone wrong. He continued with small talk about Earth customs and asked polite questions about Viridian culture. Nara's responses became increasingly short, though formally correct. The other Viridians whispered among themselves, occasionally glancing at Taiwan. By the time the reception ended 3 hours later, Taiwan was exhausted and confused. Something had clearly happened, but what? He returned to his quarters, loosening his collar and replaying the evening in his mind. His door chimed at 100 hours, startling him from his thoughts. Enter, he called, expecting Admiral Kim with criticism about some diplomatic misstep. Instead, Nera stood in his doorway. She had removed her formal attire and wore a simple gray bodysuit that made her violet skin appear even more vibrant. Her antennae twitched nervously. First emissary, Taiwan said, surprised. How can I help you? May I enter? This conversation requires privacy. Taiwan gestured to a chair. Of course. Nera remained standing. Commander Park, are you aware of what you did tonight? I offered a gift as a symbol of friendship between our peoples, while maintaining direct eye contact, offering a crystal that resonates with our bioenergy, and speaking words of bonding. Taiwan frowned. I don't understand. My species allows only one mate in our lifetime, Commander, and you just claimed me. The words hung in the air between them. Taiwan stared, certain he had misheard. That's not possible. I was following standard diplomatic protocol. Your standard protocol precisely mirrors our most sacred bonding ritual. Nera's skin rippled with patterns that conveyed distress. The crystal you offered, when given with direct eye contact and those specific words, initiates the biological bonding process. Taiwan sank onto his couch. This is some kind of misunderstanding. I wish it were. Nera finally sat down across from him. Viridians mate once, Commander. The process is biological, not merely cultural. Once initiated, it alters our physiology permanently. But I'm not Viridian. That is precisely why this situation is unprecedented. She leaned forward. Our mating process evolved to ensure genetic compatibility. My body is now changing to become compatible with yours. Wait, Ta-1 stood, pacing the small room. You're saying your biology is altering itself because of a misunderstood ritual? Yes. Can it be stopped? Nara's antennae drooped slightly. No. Once the claiming is acknowledged, which it was when I accepted your gift, the process begins. So what happens now? I don't know. No Viridian has ever bonded with a non-Viridian. Her voice became quieter. My people will be outraged. Some will see this as contamination of our species. This is... Ta-1 stopped himself from saying ridiculous and instead took a deep breath. This is a serious diplomatic situation. We need to inform our superiors immediately. No. Nara stood suddenly. If this becomes official before we understand the implications, both our careers are finished. My standing among my people will be destroyed. Ta-1 stared at her, recognition dawning. You're risking your position by coming here alone, aren't you? Nara nodded. I needed to speak with you privately first, to see if there might be a solution before this becomes public knowledge. How long do we have? He asked. The physical changes become noticeable in approximately 7 days. The full bonding process takes 30 days to complete. And if it doesn't complete? Nara looked away. My body will continue trying to adapt until it can no longer sustain the effort. Meaning? Meaning I would eventually die, Commander. Ta-1 ran his hands through his hair. So I accidentally initiated a mating ritual that will kill you if not completed. A simplified explanation, but essentially correct. I need to research this. There must be precedent, something we can. His communication panel chimed. Admiral Kim's voice came through. Commander Park, report to my office immediately. There's been an incident with the Viridian delegation. Ta-1 and Nara exchanged looks. It seems, Nara said quietly, that we have less time than I hoped. Ta-1 stared at the stern face of Admiral Kim across the polished desk. The Admiral's office overlooked the main hub of Unity Station, but neither man paid attention to the spectacular view of stars and docking ships. Explain yourself, Commander, Admiral Kim demanded. Sir, I followed the diplomatic protocol exactly as outlined in the briefing materials, Ta-1 said, keeping his voice steadied despite his growing anxiety. Then explain why the Viridian High Council has sent an emergency communication demanding your immediate removal from all diplomatic functions. Ta-1 swallowed hard. There was a cultural misunderstanding. A misunderstanding. The Admiral's voice rose. Their message states that you performed a sacred claiming ritual with their first emissary. I didn't know, sir. The gift-giving ceremony we were instructed to perform apparently mirrors their mating ritual exactly. Admiral Kim's face reddened. This is precisely why we have cultural specialists. Did you not consult the full briefing? I did, Ta-1 insisted. There was no mention of any mating ritual. The Admiral tapped his screen, bringing up a document. Page 47, paragraph 3. Viridians consider direct eye contact while offering crystalline objects to be intimate. Caution advised. That hardly describes a life-binding mating ritual, Ta-1 protested. Admiral Kim sighed heavily. Where is First Emissary Nara now? She's meeting with her delegation. They've isolated her in their quarters. This couldn't have happened at a worse time. The trade agreement with the Viridian Collective would have opened access to their quantum crystal deposits. Earth's technology sector has been waiting for this deal for years. Ta-1 stood straighter. Sir, there's something else you should know. According to Nara, the ritual initiates biological changes. If the bonding process isn't completed, her health will deteriorate. The Admiral stared at him. Are you saying your diplomatic blunder might kill her? Yes, sir. Admiral Kim closed his eyes briefly. You need to fix this, Commander, without causing an interstellar incident. How am I supposed to do that? I don't care how. Just make it happen. The Admiral's tone softened slightly. We've assigned Professor Jaiho from Xenobiology. He'll help you understand the Viridian physiology better. Until then, you're relieved of all other duties. Professor Jaiho's lab was cluttered with samples and equipment. The older man adjusted his glasses as he studied the data on his screen. Fascinating, he murmured. Simply fascinating. Is there anything that can help our situation? Ta-One asked. The Viridians have provided some medical information, though they're being quite secretive about their mating biology. Jaiho pointed to a complex molecular diagram. From what I can determine, their bonding process involves an exchange of biochemical markers that permanently alter their cellular structure. Can it be reversed? Not according to this data. Once initiated, the process continues until completed or until the body can no longer sustain the effort. Ta-One paced the small lab. There must be something we can do. A soft knock interrupted them. Nara stood in the doorway, looking paler than before. A Viridian guard stood behind her. May I enter? She asked formally. Of course, Ta-One said, noting the guard's suspicious glare. Nara stepped inside, her movements stiff. The Viridian Council has ordered me to return home for purification. Purification? Professor Jaiho asked. A procedure to attempt to reverse the bonding process. Her voice was flat, but her antennae trembled. It has never been performed on someone at my stage of bonding. What are the risks? Ta-One asked. Significant. She met his eyes. Most do not survive. Ta-One felt a surge of protectiveness. That's not an option. I don't have a choice. My position here has been revoked. I am to board the Viridian ship tomorrow. Professor Jaiho cleared his throat. First emissary, would you permit me to take some readings? Perhaps there's an alternative solution. While the professor scanned Nara with various instruments, Ta-One noticed the patterns on her skin had changed. The violet had deepened, and new silver streaks appeared when she looked at him. Your skin, he said quietly. It's different. The first visible sign of bonding, she explained. My body is preparing to become compatible with yours. The Viridian guard stepped forward. This conversation is inappropriate. Emissary Nara, we must return to our quarters. Before leaving, Nara pressed a small data chip into Ta-One's hand. Information you might find useful, she whispered. In his quarters that night, Ta-One reviewed the contents of Nara's chip. It contained historical records, carefully hidden Viridian accounts of previous encounters with other species. To his surprise, there had been 3 cases of interspecies bonding in Viridian history, though all records had been officially purged. His door chimed, and Ta-One quickly hid the chip. Ambassador Jun entered, his expression grave. The situation has escalated, Commander. The Viridian protesters have gathered at their embassy section. Protesters? Yes, their society is deeply divided on this issue. Some believe any contact with humans will contaminate their species. Others see potential in new connections. Ta-One followed the ambassador to a viewing area overlooking the Viridian section of the station. Below, 2 groups of Viridians faced each other. One group wore traditional dark robes and carried signs with symbols Ta-One couldn't read. The other group, smaller but vocal, wore modern clothing similar to human styles. What are they saying? Ta-One asked. The traditionalists demand Nara's immediate return and purification. They believe she has been corrupted. Ambassador Jun pointed to the smaller group. The progressives argue that isolation has weakened their society, and that new connections should be explored. And Nara is caught in the middle. Precisely. The Viridian High Council has called an emergency session. They're voting on whether to withdraw completely from the coalition over this incident. Ta-One watched the confrontation below. I need to speak with her again. Impossible. She's under guard, and her ship leaves tomorrow. Ambassador Jun placed a hand on Ta-One's shoulder. I understand you didn't mean to cause this situation, but now you must think of Earth's interests. Perhaps it's best to let her go." After the ambassador left, Ta-1 stared at the data chip in his hand. The historical records showed something interesting. In each case of interspecies bonding, both parties had experienced significant physiological changes, and in one case, there appeared to be unexpected benefits to the bond. His communication panel chimed with an incoming message. On the screen appeared an elderly Viridian female, her skin a pale blue with complex patterns. "Commander Park," she said softly. "I am Elder Sora of the Viridian Scientific Council. We must speak about Nera. There are things about our biology that our political leaders have hidden, even from our own people." Ta-1 hurried through the crowded corridor toward the station's main control center. Elder Sora's information had been shocking. The Viridian leadership had hidden centuries of research on interspecies bonding. Far from being dangerous, properly completed bonds often strengthen both partners, creating unique biological adaptations. But the traditionalists feared these changes would dilute what they saw as Viridian purity. An alarm blared overhead, interrupting his thoughts. The station lights flickered, then dimmed to emergency levels. "All personnel report to emergency stations," announced the automated system. "Gravity fluctuation detected in sectors 3 through 7. Ta-1 felt the first effects immediately. The subtle pull of artificial gravity weakened, causing him to float slightly with each step. Around him, people and aliens alike struggled to maintain their footing. A Drex diplomat tumbled past, his reptilian limbs flailing. Ta-1 grabbed a handrail and pulled himself toward the nearest communication panel. "Commander Park to control. What's happening?" "Main gravity generator malfunction," came the strained reply. "Backup systems responding sluggishly. Engineering teams en route." The timing couldn't be worse. The diplomatic summit was scheduled to begin in 30 minutes, with representatives from all 17 coalition species in attendance. If the gravity failed during the summit, the diplomatic fallout would be severe. Changing direction, Ta-1 propelled himself toward the auxiliary control room. As he approached, he noticed someone already working at the main panel, someone with violet skin that shimmered in the emergency lighting. "Nara," he called, pulling himself into the room. "How did you get away from your guards?" She didn't look up from the control panel. "They were affected by the gravity shift. I have engineering experience. I thought I could help." "Shouldn't you be preparing to leave?" He floated to her side, noting new silver patterns across her skin. "I haven't given up yet." Her fingers moved deftly across the controls. "I need a second set of hands. The gravitational fluctuations have compromised the stabilization matrix." Without hesitation, Ta-1 positioned himself at the adjacent panel. "Tell me what to do." "Monitor these readings while I reroute power." She pointed to a series of fluctuating numbers. "If they drop below 60, alert me immediately." They worked together in focused silence. Ta-1 found himself anticipating her next moves, their actions becoming increasingly synchronized. When she reached for a tool, he handed it to her before she asked. When she needed a calculation, he provided the answer as if reading her mind. "The settings are stabilizing," Nara said after 20 minutes. "We've bought some time until engineering arrives." Ta-1 noticed the slight shimmer between their hands when they worked near each other, like heat waves in the air. "Is that part of the bonding?" he asked, pointing to the phenomenon. Nara nodded. "Our energy fields are beginning to recognize each other." She hesitated. "Does it disturb you?" "No," he answered truthfully. "It's actually fascinating." The engineering team arrived 10 minutes later, surprised to find the system already stabilized. "Commander Park," the chief engineer said, "I didn't know you had expertise in gravitational systems." "I don't," Ta-1 admitted. "First Emissary Nara did most of the work." The engineer turned to Nara with newfound respect. "Thank you. You likely prevented a diplomatic disaster." "Your species adapts quickly," Nara remarked later as they shared an unplanned meal in the observation lounge. She with her nutrient solution, he with his emergency ration pack. The gravity had been fully restored, but the summit had been delayed by 2 hours. "Yours has incredible focus," Ta-1 replied, noticing how her skin now shimmered with new colors when she spoke to him. He caught himself watching the patterns, finding beauty where once he'd seen only alienness. "My guard will be looking for me," Nera said, yet made no move to leave. "How are you feeling? Physically, I mean." "The change's progress." She held out her hand, showing him the intricate silver patterns that now covered her palm. "My system is producing new compounds, preparing to become compatible with human biology." "And if the bonding completes?" Ta-1 asked. "What happens then?" "According to Elder Sora's restricted research, we would share certain physiological traits. Our immune systems would harmonize. Our lifespans might align." She looked away. "But that's irrelevant now. I board the ship in 8 hours. Ta-1 leaned forward. "What if you didn't go?" "That would be considered desertion. I would be exiled from my people permanently." "Is that worse than undergoing a purification process that might kill you?" Nera's antennae trembled. "You don't understand what you're asking. Viridians define themselves through their collective. Without my people, I have no identity." The observation lounge door slid open. Senior Diplomat Han entered, his expression calculating when he spotted them together. "Commander Park," he said smoothly, "and First Emissary Nera. How interesting to find you both here." Ta-1 stood. "Senior Diplomat, we were just discussing the gravity malfunction." "Of course." Han smiled thinly. "Commander, may I have a word? In private." Nera excused herself, though not before giving Ta-1 a concerned look. When she had gone, Han's demeanor changed. "What do you think you're doing?" "Sir, this situation with the Viridian could be extremely advantageous for Earth if handled correctly." Han lowered his voice. "Think about it. Their emissary is biologically bonded to you. Imagine the leverage that gives us in negotiations." Ta-1 stared at him. "You're suggesting we use her condition as a bargaining chip?" "I'm suggesting you consider Earth's interests. The Viridians have been stubborn about sharing their quantum crystal technology. With their emissary effectively under our influence, they might become more cooperative." "She's not under anyone's influence," Ta-1 said, surprised by the anger in his voice. "And she's not a bargaining chip." Han raised an eyebrow. "Becoming attached, Commander. Remember your duty." "My duty doesn't include exploiting someone's biological vulnerability." "Your duty is to Earth." Han's voice hardened. "Don't let personal feelings interfere with that." After Han left, Ta-1 remained in the observation lounge, watching the stars. 6 days ago, he barely known Nera existed. Now the thought of her leaving, of her undergoing a dangerous procedure because of his mistake, filled him with dread. His communication device buzzed with a message from Elder Sora. "The ship's departure has been moved forward. 4 hours remaining. Decision time, Commander." Ta-1 stood, surprising himself with how certain he suddenly felt. He had to find Nara, and then he needed to speak with Admiral Kim. Ta-1 paced outside the medical bay, checking the time display for the 5th time in as many minutes. Nara had been inside with Dr. Yun for over an hour. The ship that would take her back to the Viridian homeworld was scheduled to depart in just 3 hours, and his meeting with Admiral Kim had been inconclusive at best. The door finally slid open, and Dr. Yun emerged, her expression serious. "How is she?" Ta-1 asked immediately. Dr. Yun glanced down at her medical tablet. "Not good, Commander. The bonding process is accelerating. Her body chemistry is changing rapidly." "Is she in danger?" "Yes." Dr. Yun lowered her voice. "Her system is producing compounds designed to create compatibility with human biology. Without the completed bond, these compounds are building up with nowhere to go. It's putting tremendous strain on her organs." Ta-1 felt a cold weight settle in his stomach. The purification procedure her people want to perform. Would it help? Based on the limited information they shared, I believe it would stop the production of these compounds. But Dr. Yun hesitated. But what? The process is essentially a complete cellular reset. It would be extremely traumatic, particularly at this stage. I can't recommend it medically. Can I see her? Dr. Yun nodded. She's asked for you. Inside the medical bay, Nara sat on the edge of an examination bed. Her normally vibrant violet skin had dulled to a pale lavender, except for the silver patterns which now covered most of her visible skin. Her antennae drooped noticeably. You look terrible, Taiwan said, attempting humor. A weak smile touched her lips. You should improve your human courtship techniques, Commander. He moved closer, noticing the shimmer in the air between them had intensified. Dr. Yun told me about your condition. It's progressing faster than expected. Nara's voice was steady despite her appearance. My body seems particularly eager to bond with yours. Taiwan sat beside her on the bed. I spoke with Admiral Kim. He's trying to negotiate more time with your council, but they're insistent on the ship's departure. Did you tell him about Elder Sora's research? Yes, but without official documentation. It's just hearsay. The Viridian official position is that interspecies bonding is dangerous and forbidden. Nara's hand moved closer to his on the bed, not quite touching. What do you want, Taiwan? The question caught him off guard. No one had asked what he wanted since this started. I don't want you to die because of my mistake, he said finally. Is that all? Taiwan struggled with the emotions churning inside him. Was what he felt genuine, or just responsibility? Was he developing real feelings for Nara, or simply responding to her predicament? I don't know, he admitted. Everything has happened so fast. A week ago, we were strangers. For my species, bonding is not about time. It's about compatibility at the deepest level. Nara looked away. Our bodies don't make mistakes, Taiwan. If the bonding process initiated, it means we are compatible in ways neither of us may understand yet. Before he could respond, his communication device buzzed. A message from Elder Sora appeared. Meet me. Botanical Garden. Urgent. The Botanical Garden occupied a large section of Unity Station's central hub, showcasing plants from various worlds. Elder Sora waited near a display of Viridian crystal flowers, her aged blue skin almost translucent under the garden lights. Commander Park, she greeted him. We have little time. What's happening? The Council has ordered a security team to forcibly bring Nara to the ship if necessary. Elder Sora's antennae twitched with distress. They fear what her bonding represents. Which is what, exactly? Change. The Elder's voice lowered. Our society has remained isolated for millennia. We've prided ourselves on genetic purity, but our scientists have long known that we're stagnating. Our birth rates decline each generation. New diseases affect us more severely than other species. And interspecies bonding could help. It already has. Elder Sora activated a small holographic projector, showing images of Viridians with subtle non-Viridian features. These individuals are descendants of the few successful interspecies bonds in our history. They possess exceptional immunity, extended lifespans, and unique abilities. Taiwan studied the images. If this is true, why suppress the information? Fear of losing our identity. The Council believes that too much outside influence will destroy what makes us Viridian. She deactivated the projector. But there's something else you should know. The purification process they plan for Mara. It's never been successfully performed on someone at her stage of bonding. Meaning? Meaning they know it will kill her. And they consider that preferable to the alternative. Taiwan felt his chest tighten with anger. That's murder. In their view, it's preservation of our species. Elder Sora touched his arm gently. There's another option, but it requires your full commitment. The bonding could be completed. How? A ritual, similar to the one you accidentally performed, but with both parties fully aware and consenting. Her expression became solemn. Be certain, Commander. Once completed, the bond is truly lifelong. Your biology will change as well, though less dramatically than hers. Taiwan thought of Nera's fading color, of the pain she endured because of his unwitting actions. "I need to speak with her first," he said. When Taiwan returned to the medical bay, he found it in chaos. Two Viridian security officers stood arguing with Dr. Yun, while a third attempted to help Nera to her feet. "What's going on here?" Taiwan demanded. "Commander Park," Dr. Yun said with obvious relief. "These officers are attempting to remove my patient against medical advice." The lead Viridian officer turned. "This is a Viridian matter. First Emissary Nera must return to the ship immediately." Nera looked even worse than before, barely able to stand. "Taiwan," she whispered. "She's too ill to travel," Taiwan insisted. Dr. Yun's assessment. "Human medical assessments are irrelevant." The officer cut him off. "Our healers will attend to her needs." Taiwan stepped closer. "Your healers are taking her to die." The officer's antennae stiffened in surprise. "You overstep, Commander. I know about the purification process. I know the survival rate for someone at her stage of bonding." Taiwan moved to Nera's side, supporting her weight. "I won't let you take her." "This is not your decision." The officer reached for Nera. Taiwan blocked his hand. "Actually, it is. By your own laws, I initiated a claim. Until that claim is resolved, I have rights in this matter." The Viridian officers exchanged uncertain glances. "We have our orders," the lead officer said, though with less conviction. "And I'm giving you new ones," came a commanding voice from the doorway. Admiral Kim entered, followed by an elderly Viridian male in elaborate robes. "High Counselor Mach has agreed to a temporary delay while we resolve this diplomatic situation." The officers immediately bowed to the High Counselor, their antennae flat against their heads in deference. Counselor Mach approached Nera, his expression unreadable. "First Emissary, your condition deteriorates rapidly." "Yes, Counselor," she answered weakly. "You understand our laws. The purification is required." Taiwan stepped forward. "Unless the bond is completed." Mach's ancient eyes fixed on Taiwan. "You would bind yourself to her, permanently, knowing the changes it would bring to your own body." "Yes." "Foolishness," Mach hissed. "Humans are known for their fleeting attachments. You cannot comprehend the permanence of what you suggest." "Try me," Taiwan challenged. Mach stared at him for a long moment, then turned to Nera. "Is this your wish as well?" Nera straightened despite her weakness. "It is, Counselor." "Then you choose exile," Mach said coldly. "If you complete this bond, you will no longer be welcome among our people." Nera's antennae drooped, but her voice remained steady. "I choose life." The Viridian Council chamber gleamed with polished crystal surfaces, reflecting the tense faces of the assembled dignitaries. Taiwan stood at the center, alone, but resolute. He had spent the night studying Elder Sora's secret archives, learning everything he could about Viridian bonding rituals. Now he faced the full council, prepared to challenge centuries of tradition. "Commander Park," High Counselor Mach spoke from his elevated seat. "You have requested this audience to appeal our decision regarding First Emissary Nera. We grant you 5 minutes." Taiwan nodded. "Counselors, I speak today, not just for Nera, but for truth." He activated a small projector he had brought. Images appeared in the air, historical records of Viridian alien pairings that had been erased from official histories. Murmurs rippled through the chamber. These records show 7 successful human Viridian bonds over the past century. Taiwan continued. "All living, all thriving. Their offspring show increased immune response, extended lifespans, and unique abilities that have strengthened your people." Those records were sealed. A female counselor protested. "Yes, hidden from your own people," Taiwan replied calmly. "Why hide truth unless you fear it?" High Counselor Mach leaned forward. "You overstep, Commander. These matters are internal to Viridian society." Not when they involve the life of someone I care about, Taiwan said firmly. Not when your purification procedure will kill her. The chamber fell silent. Many counselors looked uncomfortable. I didn't understand what I was doing when I gave Nara that crystal, Taiwan continued, his voice softening. But now I do. He walked toward a side entrance where Nara waited, supported by Elder Sora. Despite her weakened state, she entered with dignity, her skin so pale now it was almost white, except for the silver patterns that covered her completely. Gasps echoed through the chamber at her appearance. The bond had progressed much further than anyone had expected. The bond will complete, one way or another, Elder Sora announced. Her body has committed fully. The only question is whether she will survive. This is manipulation, Counselor Mox said, though his voice lacked conviction. No, Taiwan replied. This is choice. He turned to Nara. My choice. He reached into his pocket and withdrew a small crystal, different from the one he had originally given her. This one pulsed with a gentle blue light, harvested from Earth's rarest mines. I choose to complete what I started, he said clearly. Our differences, Nara began, her voice weak but determined. Make us stronger, Taiwan finished. He held out the crystal in his open palm. Nara placed her hand over it, their fingers intertwining around the glowing stone. The moment their skin touched, a visible current of silver energy spiraled up their arms. Nara's color began to return immediately, the violet deepening as the silver patterns pulsed with light. Taiwan gasped as an unexpected sensation flooded through him. Emotions not his own, memories he hadn't lived, thoughts in a language he somehow understood. This is unprecedented, Elder Sora whispered, watching the energy flow between them. Underscore, can you hear me? Underscore, Nara's voice sounded in Taiwan's mind. Underscore, yes, underscore, he replied, without speaking aloud. Underscore, how is this possible? Underscore. Underscore, I don't know. No records mentioned this underscore. The council watched in stunned silence as the two stood connected by the visible energy. Taiwan felt strength flowing into Nara, while something else, a kind of awareness, flowed into him. The silver patterns on her skin began to fade slightly, while faint, matching patterns appeared on his skin. After several minutes, the energy subsided. Nara stood straighter, her color fully restored, while Taiwan felt different, more aware of the space around him, of the subtle energy fields between people. What has happened here? Counselor Mock demanded. Elder Sora stepped forward, her scientific curiosity overcoming her deference to the council. The bond has created a neural link, a telepathic connection. This was theorized in ancient texts but never documented. Impossible, another counselor muttered. Test us, Nara challenged, her voice strong again. One of the younger counselors wrote something on a datapad and showed it only to Taiwan. Underscore, the future belongs to those who embrace change, underscore. The future belongs to those who embrace change, Nara recited without hesitation. The council erupted in a mixture of awe and alarm. Enough, Counselor Mock stood. This demonstration proves nothing except that we were right to be cautious. Such abilities could threaten our society's very structure. Or enhance it, came a new voice. A group of younger Viridians had entered the chamber, the progressives who had protested for new connections with other species. Their leader, a scientist named Curie, stepped forward. For generations, we've hidden from the universe, fearing contamination, Curie said. Meanwhile, our population declines and our genetic diversity shrinks dangerously low. What you see before you is not corruption, it's evolution. Counselor Muck's antennae flattened against his head. You speak of destroying everything that makes us Viridian. No, Nara said gently. I am still Viridian. I feel our connection to the homeworld, our reverence for the ancestors, but I also feel something new, a perspective I couldn't have imagined before. She touched her chest. The bond doesn't erase what we are. It adds to it. Taiwan felt her sincerity through their connection. Counselors, I understand your fear. Change is always frightening, but isolation leads to stagnation. The council chamber grew quiet as the members conferred among themselves. Finally, Councillor Mock spoke again. First Emissary Nara, you have chosen your path. As our laws dictate, you are exiled from Viridian society. His voice hardened, then softened unexpectedly. However, the Council acknowledges that further study of your condition may benefit our understanding of interspecies relations. Elder Sora stepped forward. I propose a compromise. Allow Nara and Commander Park to serve as ambassadors to a new joint research initiative. They can help us understand the implications of their bond, while maintaining appropriate distance from our general population. After further deliberation, the Council agreed. 6 months later, Taiwan and Nara welcomed visitors to their new embassy on Unity Station. The space combined elements of both cultures: earth plants growing alongside Viridian crystal formations, human art displayed next to Viridian light sculptures. Through their mental link, Taiwan and Nara had developed a deeper understanding than either had thought possible. He had gained heightened sensory perception and intuition, while she had developed an appreciation for human adaptability and creative thinking. Their unique connection had opened diplomatic doors previously thought impossible between their species. A young Viridian scientist approached them, visibly nervous. Ambassador Nara, Ambassador Park, the preliminary results from our genetic study are complete. Should we tell her now? Nara asked through their link. I think it's time. Taiwan replied. Nara smiled at the scientist. We have news of our own to share. It seems our bond has created another unexpected development. She placed her hand over her abdomen, where a new life, neither fully human nor fully Viridian, had begun to grow. The scientist's antennae stood straight up in shock. This is impossible. We're finding that word doesn't apply to us anymore, Taiwan said with a smile, feeling Nara's joy resonating through their bond. That evening, as they watched the stars from their private quarters, Taiwan asked the question that had been on his mind. Was it worth leaving your old life behind? Nara's answer came not in words but in feelings, belonging, purpose, and something uniquely human that she taught him to recognize. Hope. We're not just two people anymore. She sent through their connection. We're the beginning of something new. Outside their window, Unity Station continued its orbit around the distant sun, a shining example of what could happen when different worlds came together, not to erase their differences, but to create something stronger because of them.